Good morning. Today we build the foundations for an amazing building. And we shore up our defences. Welcome back to MorningCraft. So we're back in the wonderful city of Thaldrim. And it's got this magnificent cathedral on our beautiful mountain. But there is a problem. The back of the mountain is entirely undefended. And there's a giant hole that leads into the city. That's not great. At the beginning, I didn't really know where I was going with these defences, but in the end, they end up turning into an amazing hanging gardens. But like any journey, it starts with the first step. So today, we're going to be shoring up the defences and building the foundations that lead to our amazing hanging gardens, which you'll see in the next episode. I started carving away at the mountain to produce a ledge that will keep us safe from any invaders. But I've got to say, look at this sunset. I think that looks pretty good, with the light rays casting over the skyline of all the buildings we have on the ridge. But I extended this ledge all around the rim of the mountain, producing this nice flat section where we can build some walls. These walls are going to be pretty strong, as to even reach them you'd have to climb up half of a mountain. And they wrap all the way around to our castle, from which defending is pretty easy. But to find out how we're going to secure this massive cave, you're going to have to stick around until after this story.
So, they're advertising here, and we're funding their cathedral. But they earned those rights, giving us a ship to defeat the Vikings. Since the Vikings are in charge now, I think we make them pay for that cathedral.
So we have a ledge all the way around the mountain. It defends from our castle, all the way past the cave, and across to our walls on the other side of the mountain. I do need some sort of fortress over here, but for now let's get to work on this cave. You can see it's got roughly a sort of a semicircular shape at the mouth, and I felt like I wanted to use that in the design of the fortress to protect it. So I flattened out the entrance to this fortress, and then I got to work on cleaning up the cave. I started off by laying out a semicircular pattern which I could use to build our fort. This took a while to do, as it's quite a weird shape, and mapping sort of a perfect semicircle onto a jagged one like this was pretty hard. But in the next episode, you'll see that this was well worth it, especially when we have the hanging gardens sitting here. You can see the overlap between the shape of the cave and the structure of the semicircle, and it's going to keep this passageway nice and secure. So I didn't just want to leave it with a semicircle of red wool. It's not really going to be anyone but someone who's weirdly superstitious about treading on red things. Can't think of anyone that would not do that. But instead, I'm going to need some walls, and so I started off with a rough outline with room for a gate. And then of course, we'd need to build this up until these walls were pretty formidable. They were going to need platforms, a bit more thickness. I mean, don't we all? And they'd need to stretch all the way up, so they couldn't just be walked all over. But you can see from this above angle that these walls fully enclose the entrance to the cave. And with a little bit more thickness and some towers at the gate, this is now looking like something you could at least try to defend. But there's still more to do. after this quick story. See you in a minute.
目を覚ませデブ男海賊がいる
Pirates. I am Earl of Thaldrim, friend of the Dog of Mornington, and therefore an ally to the great Lander Stone. Leave us be.
彼らは言うことを聞かないよデブ坊やランダがいなくなった今彼らは暴れ回っているんだこの鉄を家に持ち帰らなければ桜島は使われてしまう
So we're back, and before I could leave the server, it was time to beef up these walls so they're ready to defend against any threat. And with a nice rim of tuff around the edges of the gate, it was looking a little bit stronger. These would still be pretty hard to get up on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side you could still just walk over. And so I added a few more edges using tough slabs and tough stairs, and then I extended the wall all the way up to the upper section of wall, which we laid out in the beginning of the episode. Good luck getting over these walls now, they're pretty formidable. And I added a nice rim all the way around, and a whole bunch of lighting. Doesn't look the most secure, but it looks pretty cool. I definitely wouldn't try and get up there. Well, I probably could if I tried. Unless there was someone at the top trying to stop me. Then I'd probably just get shot by an arrow, which sounds awful. The other side of the city is still completely undefended. Yeah, I mean, this is the path I'd take. I don't think there'd be anyone with a bow and arrow. I'm fairly sure I'd be safe. But really, like these walls are a foundation for our new building. This episode is a bit of a foundation for the next episode, in which we're going to build the Hanging Gardens. So if you enjoyed this and you like the vibe, why not give it a subscribe? And I'll see you on Wednesday, 2 days' time, for the next episode of MorningCraft. You can find out how we put together the Hanging Gardens, and by subscribing, I'll find out that I'm not alone in this world and people do actually care about me. That or they care about Hanging Gardens, which I can provide. Everyone just wants me for my Hanging Gardens. I walk into rooms, all the pretty ladies are looking at me and they're thinking, oh, I'd like his Hanging Gardens. That's the only reason they want me. They recognise my ability to produce cathedrals and hanging gardens in Minecraft. It's a hard life.